So, okay, what are we? We're recording here. Booze and movies. Wow, that's just super creative. Good luck on your podcast, guys. Okay. This is just the most unprofessional setup I've ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, booze and movies. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and I want them answered immediately.
That's always a great way to start a podcast, is with a Schwarzenegger impression from that was Kindergarten Cop, right?
Yes, and which what's funny is I was a kid, not in kindergarten, but I was a kid when that came out.
Oh wow,
it was really great. But I was thinking of Schwarzenegger because you start your day and you open up like your Facebook or your social media, or your Twitter feed or your MySpace, and when the first thing you see is Arnold Schwarzenegger rushed to emergency open heart surgery, you think like. I just think to the part in Total Recall where he's breaking out of the mind control chair at the end, and he's like, I'll do it myself. Put the heart back in,
See you at the party, Richter.
See you, yeah. It's just, and then he comes out, wakes up from anesthesia, and is like, I'm back. I'm like, fuck, God bless you, Arnold. God bless you. Thank you for living up to your own hype.
Well, to whoever just tuned in and is very confused, we should introduce ourselves. I am William.
I'm drinking beer. I am Steven.
And this is what we are, at least at this point, calling Booze and Movies, where we sit, we have beers together, and we talk about movies, which we normally do and not record it. So it's basically the same thing we normally do.
Yeah, and it's weird. The setup we have is we're sitting across from each other, and we have these giant screens. So all I can see is like your eyes bouncing up and down behind your microphone. I can't even see your mouth moving. It's kind of off-putting. But
yeah,
I think I can make it through.
For Machinima fans, you might know it looks a little like Red versus Blue. You just see the face moving up and down and assume they're talking. But so the idea of this is we are going to talk about topics of film while getting just a little bit shit-faced.
We're already kind of already there, but
yeah, I had a few throughout the day.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a delicious coffee-blended, local brewed mead, like traditional mead, brewed with some coffee in there from Drinking Horde Meadery. Very good.
Yes, and I am drinking, this is not local, this is imported from Germany. I'm going to pronounce this name, it's got an umlaut in it like German names do. Schürferhofer Hefeweizen Grapefruit Beer. This is my tummy's been a little upset lately, so I don't want to pass up a chance to get drunk with you, William. So I've got this little nice fruity beer. It's amazing, and I'm sure that maybe on a different night when I was aiming to really get drunk, I'd mix this with maybe a shot of vodka or something. This is really good.
I can imagine that'd be pretty good. I actually have an orange liqueur right now that I think would go amazing with one of those. Well, to start off, we should probably say, so we met actually at work in an office environment. We worked for the same tour company.
Yes, hospitality industry.
Yes, I was the guy who dealt with the salespeople out in the field. I helped them in all their rigmarole in the day-to-day, and you helped everyone buy that rigmarole.
Yes, marketing. I love marketing. It's a great job because it allows me to get paid a living wage, but also be creative throughout my daily work. So it's... Are you okay?
Yeah, mead.
Mead. I see you're drinking it out of a glass with the inscription of the One Ring inscription. So I'm guessing that glass is cursed. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunately bonded to me, but it doesn't make me invisible, so that kind of sucks.
I noticed that. Well, if you drink enough mead out of that, you might think everyone else is invisible. You might go...
But yeah, we met at work, and I was there already, and then you came in after that. They got you in for the marketing position, and it took a while because I'm a generally quiet person if I don't know people, and it seems like you're a lot the same way. And I think finally one day, either you made a joke to me or I made a joke to you, but one of us made a movie reference to the other, and it just sparked off from there.
I was the guy when I first started there. I didn't have an office; I had a cubicle. And I have a big mouth, and I am very impulsive. I can't control things I say sometimes, like Tourette's almost, but not clinically. Like I'm just a dumbass. I don't.
There's no treatment.
There's no filter between brain and mouth sometimes. And so in this office where there's 10 people working with cubicles, everyone can hear you if you're loud enough. I would just, in reference to things that would happen, like phone calls or something, I would just say references to movies and TV shows, and there would be. Because we had this kind of boys club. There was 4 of us. There was you and me, and then these other 2 dudes that worked there. that we're also kind of the same generation and same pop culture reference getters that we are. And one day I would just say, like, remember, kids, duck and cover, like the classic South Park episode, and that would get a few snickers. And even like the old ladies that worked with us would be like, haha, he's so funny.
Oh yeah, well, Marlo was amazing.
Oh, excuse me, sorry, I burped right over that reference.
Goes with booze.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you work with people 8 hours a day, and you start to talk to people, and you start to get to know them, and you start, there's people I've worked with there longer than you that I don't say 2 words to.
Yeah.
Like in work or out of work, I don't see them. But like you and I, we clicked, and we filmed a few things together, and we have a few same interests, and so I figured why not just get a podcast together?
Yeah, and that's exactly my thought, because I mean, film is this beautiful thing. I think the reason I love a movie is because it's sitting on my DVD shelf, or maybe it's in my VHSs, and maybe when the movie's good enough, I have a couple Blu-rays up there. Not to brag, but
oh, dude, I have 2 copies of Star Trek. I have the theatrical cut and the director's cut on Blu-ray. So
But you have, I mean, they sit on the shelf, right? And every time you put that in the DVD player, it's the same damn movie. And it never changes. But and this is actually take 2 of our podcast. But in take 1, which I set up drunk, so there was audio issues.
William doesn't know how microphones work.
No. The driver output.
Yeah, the driver,
the MMV driver. Okay, I won't go into it. But like we mentioned in take 1, like the movie never changes, but we do. So like we'll either notice something we never noticed before, or something will happen in it that means something different to us. So movies to me are always that kind of beautiful thing. Like no matter what's going on in my life, that movie is that movie, and it won't. It's a beautiful constant as well as an art form. I mean, paintings will fade, stuff like that. Well, because they're physical, they're in the real realm. But like as long as your disc keeps playing, that movie's gonna look the same.
And that's for me, because here's where we get in like real snob territory, but those are not every movie is like that. What you're saying, some movies.
Oh yeah.
When you have this coming of age moment where you have this epiphany, where it's like, oh, some movies are just made to sell a ticket, and then they don't care about its longevity or its legacy, or nobody's going around looking for a copy of Sudden Death starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and the Chicago Blackhawks and the Pittsburgh Penguins from 1997. Nobody's going around looking, unless it's like like we do with B movies, like it's like, let's watch this and mock it.
Yeah.
But movies, like anything by I'm gonna check off all the hipster boxes here. Anything by Scorsese, or directors with like a specific style, like the Andersons, right? Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, Wes Anderson. Like I'm pissed because like Isle of Dogs isn't opening here in our town, and
no, what did we get a 16-screen theater for if we can't get Wes Anderson movies on opening weekend
with a fucking IMAX?
What's the point? I mean, it's another theater for, opening for insert big budget crappy movie here.
Yeah. And well, I mean, that's to go on to that tangent. I mean, so we also have a couple other shows we do on YouTube. We review newer movies. We also talk about our bad movies.
We are our own biggest fans.
We currently are. Yeah.
But and we've got considering like 3 days ago, some lady who was pissed about not getting enough views literally shot up YouTube. We got to tread lightly on the whole. We're a little cynical about how few views we get.
I'm actually almost proud of it, because I've seen a few of my YouTube idols, some people that I really respected, really loved, that went the way that they were small, and I actually watched them become big, and then they turned into these kind of pretentious assholes. And that makes me sad, and I almost like the fact that we're well, I shouldn't say relatively, we are actually unheard of.
It's literally friends and family, and even our friends are kind of like,
yeah. But I like that because it keeps us humble in a way. Because I have some guys that play video games. We actually watched a video with them about a couple minutes ago. They've been doing this for years now, and they were around for years before I discovered them, and I absolutely love them. And those guys literally work their butts off just to make enough money to make another episode.
Yeah.
And they're super humble. They're all about thanking their fans. They do what their fans request them, and they don't do these ridiculous jumping sharks. Like some of their fans will ask them to do ridiculous things, and they'll just be like, "No, we're not doing that," because and they say it over and over again. It's like we just do this because we love to do it. And that's kind of like what we do. We love movies. We love to talk about movies. We discuss and bicker about movies,
and that's the thing is, I'm old enough to remember a world where there was no outlet for creativity, unless like some of the YouTube shows I follow. I think like if it were 30 years ago, these guys would be on like public television. I always say, we had Channel 30 in the town I grew up. It was like, the two towns shared a TV channel,
Yeah.
and it was like the high school history teacher was also the basketball commentator. But like they would do like a weekly half-hour show, and it would suck because they would, a show like, YouTube movie review shows or like a solo YouTuber like Jenny Nicholson or somebody. Well, they do videos when they feel like it or when the moment strikes them.
and they know it's going to be funny or
Good.
entertaining.
Yeah. And they put something into that, and not like they're on I don't have to do a show this week. I have to do something. I saw this movie that, it's like not playing anywhere. So but it's the only one I haven't reviewed yet. So I have to do a show on it. And YouTube, for those of us who grew up in an analog world, it's this miracle of just being able to get, even if nobody hears it, you said it. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's off your chest and out there. And that's, maybe someone someday will see this and say, hey, these two idiots got it right. Let's watch this podcast or let's check out their other shows. And, that might be 10 years from now, but, whatever.
Well, and that's the like you said, the beauty of it. But I'm kind of the same way. As like I just like to share it. Like I annoy people at work all the time because like someone will mention a movie. I'm like, oh, you saw that? We need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And like
you're that guy.
Yeah, I'm instantly in their face. Like we have to talk about this film. And there's this one guy, he mentioned that he saw this semi-obscure. I don't know if it's French or just some of the European country, but it was definitely not American. It was dubbed over, and it was called Jack and the Cuckoo Clock Heart. It was a 3D animated children's film based on some folklore story, and intensely strange, but a great movie. And it had these beautiful metaphors in it. And I apologize to anyone who decides to look it up, but I'm going to spoil the ending right now. So basically, he had his heart replaced by a cuckoo clock because his heart was frozen. And part of the side effect of that is he can't fall in love because it's too stressful on his heart. But at the end, like he fell in love, he went through this whole thing with this girl, and he's dying. He's laying in the snow next to this tree, and he's dying. And finally, the girl, after the big fight they had, runs up to him, and they meet each other, and he basically says his final goodbye, right? And this movie has such a beautiful metaphor for death. In his death, it wasn't like this sad, horrible thing. It was actually a super sweet thing. Time freezes around him, the snowflakes and everything. He gives her a kiss on the cheek, and he climbs the snowflakes up into the sky.
Aww.
It's super sweet and a beautiful metaphor, right? And it's kind of those things like that. Like someone will be like, "Oh, I saw this movie." I'm like, "Let's talk about that beautiful ending."
Right,
And they're
especially if it's something rare or unique. Like nobody comes up and's like, "I just saw Black Panther." Oh, we got to talk about it. It's like, everyone's seen Black Panther. But if someone comes up and says, "I've seen I checked out this movie. It's called Run Lola Run." I'm like, "Yes, I love." That was like the first kind of video store indie recommendation in college that I got. I was like, my young burgeoning film studies and film amateur film critique career or whatever you want to call, pastime or hobby, whatever you want to call it. And when people when you mention, I think there was one for you and me where it was like it was mentioned at work.
I think it was Robocop.
Was it Robocop?
Yeah. I think Robocop was a lot of our first jokes because both of us knew the relevance and yet ridiculousness of that film.
Well, because we didn't work for the company we worked for is not OCP in the slightest, but it's easy to be cynical about the faceless corporate committee think that kind of ruled our lives.
It's a standard corporate company.
Yeah, they make decisions based on the bottom line, and
some guy we don't know his name says do this, and we do it.
Yeah, so when something would happen, and I would say, "Oh, geez, William, this could look bad for our company. Scramble the best spin team we have." You get that.
You actually said that exact reference to me when you outlined that own brochure and you sent it up, and it came back with like they thought something was really wrong, and you said that exact reference. I freaking lost it. That was so hilarious. But yeah, it's those exact things.
Or like one of your favorite ones from RoboCop 2 is Officer Duffy, you're a rotten cop.
Yeah. Where's Kane? Actually, behind me, like literally behind me right now, is a RoboCop 2 poster.
Yes. And it's the great one where you see RoboCop 2 and reflected in RoboCop's face. It's great.
Because I mean, let's just face it, RoboCop 2 was so great, and no one loves it like they should love it. It's the redheaded stepchild of movies, and it just needs love.
I don't know about that. I would say it's great. It stands on its own fantastically, but compared to the first RoboCop, it does pale in comparison slightly. They do things bigger and better. I think RoboCop 2 is one where you have the commercial with Ramada from Hot Shots covered in blue goop, and they're really selling you on the world is fucked up 30 years from the 1980s and 2 years from now. Actually, we're just about in RoboCop land, folks, and Detroit is doing its best to make up to be the reality of RoboCop.
If anything, Merced, California is going to be that's I won't go into that, but look that city up. It's got some issues.
Yeah.
Not so much the crime, but the financial part is exactly like RoboCop.
Yeah. Well, it's hard for me to care about California. Arizona's we got our own problems.
Yeah. But trying to think of where to lead on from here. Well, I mean, to speak of so RoboCop came out in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I was born late 80s. And so, RoboCop had been around a little bit by then, but for the past, I always loved movies. I loved movies since I was a little kid, but I wasn't that's what I did. That wasn't my hobby at that point until I got into college. And like you said, you learned about stuff in college, and I met all these people because I grew up in this little cattle town. No one was cultured in any way. Most of them were really racist. That's where all of California's opium came from. So it was a pretty ridiculous little city, and so I knew nothing. Like my dad knew this. I'm actually his namesake, Bill.
Can we go back to the opium comment and say that the best opium comes from California? Happy poppies grow in California.
Happy poppies grow. Yeah. Or good opium comes from happy poppies.
Happy poppies grow in California. Yeah. Okay, we're past that now. You're named after your dad.
Oh no! I'm named after my dad's best friend, a man by the name of Bill Ballantyne. And Uncle Barry is Barry Ballantyne.
Bill Brasky.
Bill Long. I'm named after Bill Long. But no, he
in more ways than one.
He was this amazing guy that he loved cinema, and specifically bad cinema. Mm-hmm. He had and he would figure out ridiculous ways of recording these things. He would have an 8mm projector pointed at his TV and a cassette recorder next to the TV. He'd record things separate, and to show his friends, he'd have to time it. And it would still off sync, because that's in the analog age where nothing's quite
like a pre-World War I picture show. Where
almost.
You got to press play on the record.
Yeah. There's these beautiful stories of my dad and my Uncle Bill projecting porn on the neighbor's house because he was an asshole to them. So they're he can't see what everyone's laughing at, but everyone's laughing at his house. So I kind of started to get when I came a little older, and I found all these VHS tapes that my dad had saved from him, and there was the old old Buck Rogers was on there, Flash Gordon, Commando Cody, a lot of the old serials, and then he had just these bizarre Attack of the Crab Monsters, bizarre bad just trash sci-fi movies, and that's kind of what made me love sci-fi and love movies. And then I met my wife, and she showed me that you could know nothing about a movie, and it just kind of you read the back of the box and it just kind of sounds interesting, and you watch it. And since then, you've given me recommendations I never thought I'd watch, and cinema has become my hobby. I movies come out, and I want to know about it. And then you and me, when we were doing a B Movie Support Group episode for Space Mutiny, we looked up shit for the background, and it's they color corrected the windows so they would look like the energy reactor, but they didn't tell the film developer, so he color corrected them back. And it's
on an already low budget movie, they wasted so much money needlessly color correcting this footage
twice, which is great.
It's you could have had more than cardboard sets, maybe.
Yeah.
And for me, because I grew up. I was one of those. I was a weird kid who refused to accept his weirdness. I was no, I'm not going to be weird. I'm going to be normal. I'm going to conform. I'm going to like the things other people like, and I'm going to go see them so I can talk about them, and join in the conversation and be normal. And through my teen years, I was pretty much like that. I was if it's not made by Hollywood, it's crap. If it doesn't have Tom Cruise in it, it's not worth my time because it's not. It's going to be just it's a B movie. It's a straight to video. Why would I be entertained by that? That those movies are failures, And then, I was dating this girl in high school, and she's like, "You see this movie Clerks?" I'm I'm like, no, what's Clerks? I heard about this movie Clerks. What's Clerks all about? Who's in this movie? And she's like, nobody you know, but it's one of the greatest movies you'll ever see. And I saw it and I was like, damn, this movie has a lot of flaws, but I was really fucking entertained. Like, this guy made a movie like overnight in his spare time with his friends and a bunch of community theater people, and it fucking worked. And it, like,
well, and it had relevance to it too. There was reasons for all their actions.
I connected with the characters.
Yes,
It
everyone
related
feels like
to
Dante
me.
sometimes.
Yes, I was Dante. I even grew a goatee so I could look. I could be Dante, not be Dante, but I grew it because I like that look. I like the flannel shirt over, with the goatee, that 90s man.
I think
look.
Dante invented the modern handsome grunge look.
Yeah.
I think it just hasn't caught on until now, but I think Dante was the first.
But I was also, the point of Clerks is it's a guy in his 20s who should be moving on from his, career and going to college and going into bigger, better things. And I was at the doorstep of that. I was 18.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was already cynical about working in retail and customer service. But also, like, it was one of those things like, oh, not only is this a movie that speaks to me, but it was made by a guy like me. It was made by a schlub. Kevin Smith is big and famous now, and he's got a huge Twitter account, and everybody, hangs on his every word. But he was a schlub when he made it. He was just a regular guy.
He's just a dude and had an idea.
Yeah, and half the people in the movie were like, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be in the next movie. I don't want. This was something I did for fun, and that really kind of got me off that mainstream path and into watch, and the late 90s were such a, it was Hollywood saying, okay, we're going to make these directors famous now, these little indie directors like with Sling Blade and John Waters found new life in the 90s with stuff like Serial Mom and Cry Baby and Pecker. But also it allowed, there were still the gatekeepers, but it allowed stuff like Blair Witch to get made.
Yeah.
And SLC Punk is another one of those little indie films that kind of slipped through the cracks, where it's like Hollywood executives like, well, that's what the kids are watching these days, greenlight it, and that's what led to now you can make movies on digital. You don't need to know how to develop and process film, and now you have the internet, and you have this whole, what we're doing now, where you have no gatekeepers, and you can just say what you want and make what you want.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of got, originally, I had my bad sci-fi because there was channels on like satellite and cable that played bad sci-fi, and so my dad was actually a huge influence for movies for me because he's the same way. He likes cinema and weird cinema specifically, like movies that are just. My dad's like Naked Lunch, Bad Taste, Killer Tongue, movies like that are my dad's bread and butter, but. For me, I watched an expanse of movies going into college, but when I met Heather and she just told me that, I was like, you can just watch a movie. It doesn't fucking matter what it is. And I did. I watched Run Lola Run, which I fell in love with. I have it. It's on my DVD shelf. My dad sent me a movie that he saw on IFC that he thought I would like, Six String Samurai, which you saw, and you don't share the same love, but you do understand the relevance of it.
I get why. I understand. Like, to me, it was kind of like a mad, like the kid, like it's like a Mad Max type thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
It's fun.
Yeah, and I like it because it's quirky and it's fun. It's this bizarre look at the apocalypse, and I started to like movies like that. I pulled up a movie I found called Malice in Wonderland, not the rap album, but an actual movie, a British made film, and it's fantastic. Like there's this guy named Harry Hunt, and he's the Red Queen. He is a queen. He is a flamboyant homosexual, and it's just hilarious. And that's kind of where I am now. Like movies for the sake of people loving making them, I think are the ones I enjoy the most. Like I told you about this horror comedy I ran across called Blood Car. It has zero budget, and the girl from My Girl, for no apparent reason, just older.
Oh yeah, Anna Chlumsky. Yeah.
Something I'm horrible with actor names.
Chomsky.
But it's this bizarrely stupid story, and it's got no budget, and like the set for the two rival stores that the guy goes to are literally like plywood kiosks they put in a field, and you're watching, and it's kind of like Clerks. You're watching the movie, and you're like, the person making this is just so goddamn happy that they made it. There's that love, there's that honesty. You're just like they're just so happy that they get to show up and film something that they wrote and they got the equipment for, but not in the same sense as like Neil Breen and
yeah,
Don
it's
Dohler.
But it's like, well, Don Dohler, maybe because Don Dohler or like Len Kabaczynski or John Waters, even in the early days, the Dreamlanders, it's people getting together making a film.
Yeah.
And they enjoy it. It's fun for them, and it's they don't care, if they get famous or it's like, hey, I was in a movie. That's all I care about, and that's great. And I find myself, I'm one of those guys. People will ask me, normal people will ask me my opinion on movies or on a specific movie, and they will get way more than they bargained for in return.
I do the same thing.
I had a coworker on the phone once. He's like, "So what do you think about that Man of Steel movie that just came out? Do you think my 9-year-old son, just loves Superman? I was wondering, do you think it's good for him to take to?" And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, Superman, a realistic take on Superman just doesn't work. You can't do the Batman thing where a guy wears blue tights and a red cape, and it's just this orgy of violence at the end where Superman's punching a guy in the face through buildings, and he's disappointed that he has to break his neck, and blah blah blah. And the guy's like, "So would you recommend it, or wait for Netflix?" Or
It didn't pop.
Did not pop.
It did not pop.
Did not pop for me. No popcorn for breakfast on that.
That is a reference to our other. We actually do a YouTube series. I love it.
Ironically, the last one we did was Wonder Woman.
Yes,
like a year ago.
Yeah. Well, life's been busy. I do. We should pick it back up. But now that I actually am off on the weekends again.
Yeah, summer's coming.
Summer's
we
coming.
could do some blockbusters. We could do some normie loving movies the normies love.
Yeah.
Maybe get some hits on YouTube that way.
Well, speaking of Man of Steel, I mean, there's just one point that I think. Okay, so that movie I thought was already pretty bad. I'm not going to go into the specifics why I think it's bad, but I did not like it. I thought the whole movie was just kind of lost in itself.
Well, it's because Zack Snyder doesn't understand Superman.
Yeah,
doesn't know what Superman is.
Well, at the end where Superman is holding Zod's head, or General Zod, he's holding Zod's head, right, and Zod's shooting the I beam, that's cutting the city down. And he's turning his head, and Superman has the choice of either cracking his neck to kill him or let him kill people. They missed a fatal flaw. They had already established earlier in that sequence that Kryptonians are immune to other Kryptonians' eye lasers. So he could have just covered his fucking face with his hand.
Yeah.
He could have just went like, up, sorry, up.
Peekaboo.
Yeah. That is literally that. It's like when people are like, "Well, why didn't Frodo take the eagles and drop the ring?" It kills the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the eagles and it's a huge plot hole, I guess. But the point is the adventure. It's the adventure. It's the friendship.
Well, and if you read through the books, there's a really good reason why Gandalf didn't have the eagles yet. The eagles didn't want to be part of it, but they saw that if you didn't stop Sauron, then
because the eagles are a metaphor for America in World War II. Because I don't know. I
insert white noise here.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking. I was like Zack Snyder and Lord of the Rings, and how am I supposed to make sense of this now and move on to something else?
Well, I mean, you could just sidebar into like what's completely different. Just like mention Escape from New York or something.
I've been watching because I have both Netflix and Prime, so I cherry pick scenes from movies I've seen a whole bunch of times, and I'll rewatch a movie that. I'll have it on DVD, but it's so much easier to click it on Netflix because why get up and put a DVD in the machine? And I was watching. I mentioned directors I like with very specific styles, and one of those guys is Michael Mann, and he's more well known, I think, for Heat, with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro finally sharing a scene. Yeah, you
suggested that to me. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
And it's this big sprawling L.A. crime story. It's like a 3-hour movie, and everyone has every character. There's 12 main characters. They all have a backstory, and it's just marvelous. And that's got a great one of Pacino's better outburst performances where he's yelling at Mo Sislak from The Simpsons, Hank Azaria in the flesh.
Oh, really? Wow.
And he's great. But Michael Mann also did a movie that's kind of a cult classic. Kind of tie it back to Robocop 2. It has your boy Tom Noonan, who was Kane. Manhunter, which came out in 1986, and Michael Mann was working on Miami Vice at the time. So this is like Manhunter, it's almost dreamlike how avant-garde and stylized it is. Like, it's just 80s. Like, there's neon everywhere. There's pastel. There's little hints of pink and purple in different scenes that just don't belong there. But the use of color in that movie is just so, like, every nighttime scene inside Will Graham's house is just blue. Like, you're in a fish tank. It's amazing. And there's a sunset where, like, looks like the waves are on fire.
God damn, I need to watch that movie now.
But your boy Tom Noonan Manhunter is the first adaptation of Red Dragon, the first Hannibal Lecter novel. And in there, the bad guy is named the Tooth Fairy, and Tom Noonan plays this guy. And his first actual appearance on camera, he comes in and he's just got this. They really use his awkwardness to its fullest because he's like 7 foot tall, gangly. He's like Groot, he's just gangly, and his hand comes in from off camera. It's just this giant hand with these 10-inch long fingers. He taps a guy on the shoulder, and it's just like so creepy and so awesome. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is like that sticks with me. That's a movie I'll rewatch once a year, maybe once a month, if I have it. It's still on Prime for free, and I don't have to find it anywhere. And it's like those movies. I'm not rewatching Deuce Bigelow.
No.
I'm not going back to that scene in Freddy Got Fingered to find inspiration for a project I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the same thing. So Heather and I we'll just pop in movies because you've seen our DVD shelf. It's way too big. We literally could not watch all those movies in a year.
Right.
But we go back and there's a few movies that I notice like we watch multiple times a year. Like I watch Robocop 1 and 2 multiple times a year.
Mm-hmm.
The Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 I watch them multiple times a year. That's mainly like my childhood nostalgia.
And you mean original Ninja Turtles?
The original Ninja Turtles movies.
Secret of the Ooze.
Secret of the Ooze. The second one, and the first one is Ninja Turtles.
That's this new crap.
And then one that we literally just watched last week, a Goofy movie. Which if you want to know how 90s the 90s was, watch a Goofy movie. That is as 90s as the 90s got.
Yes.
But we watch those films and like
are they talking about recycling and saving the environment and ozone layer and Captain Planet?
If you want to account it to all that, but no, what I was kind of on your point that like there's these things like there's these specific parts in these movies. I could relay. I mean, RoboCop. I could probably give you every line of every scene in order because I've seen it so much. And
we could do a table reading of RoboCop. Like you and I.
You know what? People might. We should just do table readings.
We should just
of
do that on. That's our new show. Next show, table readings coming next month.
Well, we
2018 is the year it happens for us, William. It's the year it happens.
Well, you need a clever title like B Movie Support Group, Popcorn for Breakfast, Retinue, Booze and Movies.
Tabled.
It needs this. Table retarding? No, that's offensive.
No, that's offensive. That's
offensive.
Triggering. We'll think of something. Don't you worry.
but no, yeah. On your point, like there's that's what makes a movie great. I think because as much as you and me like to say like this movie's good, this movie's bad. Unfortunately, it's like art. It's established by the viewer. If 2 billion people say that Transformers 5 is great, unfortunately, Transformers 5 is great. Not in my book. Probably not in your book, but
again, that's a movie the first Transformers was packaged for its time.
I actually liked the first one,
but nobody's saying, "Hey, remember that scene in Transformers, that groundbreaking scene where Sam does this?"
Yeah, true.
Or the groundbreaking CGI,
true,
where it's 2 junkyards fighting each other on camera.
But we can all agree that.
But it sold a lot of tickets, so let's make more.
Well, and so that kind of brings up. And I don't want anyone to be offended by this, but I bring it up a lot of times, and I feel bad for saying it, but I always bring up the topic of stupid. And I say stupid people, and I don't mean stupid people like offensively. I just mean stupid people as like an idea.
Uncultured.
Sort of, yeah. But like you have these people that like people who these stupid like what is it like it's like Drunk Moms 7, like dumb movies like that come out and they get
like anything with Amy Schumer in it.
Unfortunately, poor Amy Schumer. I legitimately feel bad for her, but I'm not going to go into that.
Or Melissa McCarthy.
She's that too. Pretty much all the female actresses.
They're both
time lately.
Both Amy Schumer, they're in their Tom Hanks period now, where they're doing Bachelor Party and Big, and they have yet to find their Philadelphia. It's coming though.
Yeah, they need their Joe versus the volcano.
Yes.
References. But God, I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, but like the object of stupid. Like there's There's stupid that it's just dumb, and it's like, why do people like this movie?
Ass.
Yeah, you just blue collar.
And I get
titties. It's funny.
I get movies like that. I mean, for me, a classic stupid movie where it's like you sit and laugh at it is Airplane.
Well, I was actually
and
just
which
about to say
laughs.
that.
You could still. There's a few references that are very dated, like a lot of terrorism references
and the speaking jive.
and the speaking jive, and also the Leslie Nielsen says, "I haven't felt this weird since that Anita Bryant." Nobody remembers Anita Bryant and her war on gays back in the 70s. Nobody remembers that. Yeah. But it's still, when you see the name gagged where it's like Captain Over, Roger, Victor.
Yeah, Victor.
That's timeless.
Done.
But you watch like the blank movie, right? Scary movie, epic movie, date movie. Those are full of references that only people in 1998 know.
Very encapsulated.
Yeah.
Very, very encapsulated. Yeah. Well, and I was actually going to mention that point. It's like there's a difference between like stupid movies and stupid comedy. And there are some stupid comedies that I love. And they're not stupid comedies because they're bad. They're stupid because you get to turn your brain off and they're just good, simple jokes.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites is Basketball. And there's actually a generation of people that hate that film. But it's by the same writers as Airplane. And it is actually.
Well, South Park too.
Yeah, and South Park. Well, Trey Parker, Matt Stone actually didn't write it.
Oh, they didn't. Okay,
no,
I thought that was.
No, it's actually by the writers.
Because I know they wanted to do movies, but then South Park was kind of like, oh, we have to do this. This is making us money now, so let's focus on this.
So if I remember correctly, they had
because they wanted to do Book of Mormon like 20 years ago.
Yeah,
that was their deal.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, they had a say in the writing. I think they were involved, but they don't have the credit for it. But that is why they're the main actors. And no, they play the characters well. It's written really funny. And you were talking about like moments you remember. Like I watch Basketball multiple times a year. Well, okay, and that's maybe like 2. But I watch
multiple times.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
More than once.
Technicality. Nuance, Stephen. But no, like when I watch it, I am waiting that whole film for the part where Coop Reamer, or just I don't know, his name's Coop. Anyway, he's falling asleep because they just spent all night drinking with a kid who's about to get a kidney transplant. He's drunk and he's standing there with the basketball and he's passed out. And they're like, oh, he's really concentrating on this shot. And then someone in the crowd honks an air horn and he freaks and throws it. His physical action on that in response, I have woken Heather up more than once laughing at that scene
because she falls asleep.
That and I used to be on the shift where I stayed up like 4 hours later.
Right.
But yeah, so it's exactly like you said. Like there are films you come back to because you're like, I remember this part. I love this part.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need to love the whole movie to love that part.
Well, and see, for me, I'm a sports fan. I consume sports. I love my football, baseball, and hockey teams.
We try to do Super Bowl with you.
You come over once a year for Super Bowl, and it's a great time. But I actually I like sports. I like, the strategy, and I get passionate about my hometown teams. And so for me, that movie was not, people would say, oh, it's insulting to sports fans. It says like, no, not really. It does lampoon a lot of what's wrong with professional sports. Like the first joke is about how sports teams keep relocating to places where they probably just shouldn't
I like
go.
It says the Raiders went from here to back again and no one noticed. Like that's a funny joke.
I noticed because I lived in the Bay Area in Oakland at the time. But or like the New Orleans Jazz moved to Utah where their jazz is illegal.
Where there's no jazz. Or jazz is illegal, yeah.
Or the Minnesota Lakers moved to Los Angeles where there are no lakes. But also the owner, Mr. Densmore, and how it's like the business and it's entertainment, and also how like Reamer and Coop are like role models suddenly. Like we're not role models. And this is an era of like Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan, and I'm not a role model. And,
they were just like unwashed losers barely making rent like a year ago.
And also like the running gag with Bob Costas and Al Michaels in the booth talking about the playoff brackets, and it's like, yeah, you know what? If you look at all these professional leagues have more than 30 teams now. The playoffs are a little 2 months long.
Yeah,
it is a little weird,
I love when he's reading off the rules and he says that if a winner is not announced by such and such, they'll have a 2-man sack race every consecutive Saturday until a winner is announced.
Yes, and also they got Al Michaels, the top tier of top tier sports broadcasters in America, like top 5, like Vin Scully, Al Michaels. It doesn't get any better than Al Michaels saying, "You're excited, feel my nipples." I mean, yeah.
It's probably because
it's lowbrow humor, but it's not fucking Joe Dirt. You know, it's not. Oh, I touched a nerve there.
No.
It's not.
I like Joe Dirt for some specific reasons. Probably because again the Cowtown origin of myself.
But it's not like Adam Sandler humor. You know.
Yeah, it's not Ridiculous Six.
Ugh.
And it's not my wife just rented because out of curiosity because it had some really good actresses in it. She rented that. It's like Bachelorette Party or The Bad Night or something, and it was about a bachelorette party where they accidentally kill a guy they think is a stripper.
Oh.
And it's just stupid.
That kind of well, I don't think it's on video yet. But what's that Game Night where they kill a guy, or it's like Jason Bateman? That wasn't out of theaters in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's probably the exact same thing, just with ladies.
And now they're going back to the gross out raunchy comedy shit now, like the late, remember the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like something about Mary with cum in her hair and Jason Biggs fucking a pie. The poor guy, he could have had a great career, but he started out fucking an apple pie, and that's all he ever will be remembered for.
You can only go so far up from fucking a pie.
Tom Green eating a mouse in Road Trip, it's like, it's gross out comedy. When like Airplane, maybe you'd see some boobs flash by, or what's the running gag in Airplane? The lady is trying to put her lipstick on throughout this turbulent flight, and she's drawing green circles all over her face and doesn't know it,
Yeah. Well, and the only boobs in Airplane are during the prepare for crash, and it's just the joke that everyone's panicking, and a lady without her top runs by.
Yeah.
And it's the joke. It's like it's just ridiculous. Everyone's panicking.
And it's the same kind of thing in another movie made by those guys starring Leslie Nielsen with Naked Gun, where he's talking about everything I see reminds me of my ex-girlfriend. He's driving by that oil refinery with the two large domes with the nipples on top.
I forgot about that. I love that.
It's like, it's absolutely lowbrow humor, but it's done in such a way that it's smart lowbrow humor. Right?
Yeah.
Can you even say that?
Well, because you got to take a second to think about the joke.
Yeah.
It's
meta.
The joke isn't like, haha, he said boobs and then farted,
He fell down and made a funny, or the old woman sat on a horse. And, or the fat woman sat on a horse and the horse broke all 4 of its legs.
Yeah, or like, the old lady crossing the street said, fuck you. Funny. Well,
we've been talking for like 3 hours here.
No,
Hope you're still with us.
We're actually running up on the time slot I had originally concepted for this.
Well, good. I'm out of beer. I need to get another beer.
Yeah, I'm almost out of mead. Well, thank you if you did listen all the way through this, thank you for listening to us rant about films. I would love to say on the next episode we are going to talk about our theater experiences. That could be a fun episode all in its own.
Oh, man. Doctor Strange. Was it the last?
It was Doctor Strange.
The last movie we saw at the old theater in town with a couple of local people.
We'll go into it in the episode. The full story coming up. Thank you for listening to Booze and Movies.
Oh, that's bringing a smile to my face. I want to tell a story now, but I guess I'll have to wait.
Well, we can just hit stop and then just record the
We can just pretend we recorded it next week. No, I'll wait.
All right. Well, have fun, everybody.
Bye.